the thing that's got my attention right now the most is, what is it that as a nation we're so divided over?
Mm.
And I've been thinking in terms of, that everybody talks about, well, it's between the right and the left. And I think that's true to a point. But I think it's also between the top and the bottom. And most people would say, well, what's the top and the bottom? And the top is authoritarianism, and the bottom is libertarianism. Not big L libertarianism like the party, but little L libertarianism like freedom. And it feels like the extreme right and the extreme left have moved to the top of the scale and become pretty authoritarian. And the people on the left are saying, well, if we could just make the people on the right do what we want them to, then everything would be easier. And people on the right are saying, well, if we could just make the people on the left do what we want them to, then everything would be easier. And so it feels like everything is drifting up toward this authoritarianism that is actually the opposite of what this country was founded on. And it's causing a lot of stress. It's causing people to start talking about, are we going to have a civil war? It's causing a lot of fear. And I've just been thinking a lot about, where do you want to lie? If you plot those two axes, the vertical axes and the horizontal axis on a graph, they're going to cross somewhere. And where do we want to find ourselves? Well, I think where I want to find myself is right in the middle, right where they cross. That would be ideal. I don't think I'll get there, but I think that would be ideal. And so what are the right and the left? I've been thinking about that a lot. What's the real difference between the right and the left? And I think when it comes down to it, people on the left value highly communal responsibility. And it's often talked about in terms of compassion. We have a communal responsibility to take care of people. And I think the right, if you go all the way out to the end of the line on the right, you find people saying, well, it's about individual responsibility. And I have an obligation to care for myself. And on the extreme right, I'm not obliged to care for anyone else but myself. And on the extreme left, you have people who are like, we sacrifice our individual rights because we have an obligation to take care of everyone. And so, I want to find myself in the middle, because I do believe that we do have an obligation to take care of people who can't take care of themselves, a communal obligation to take care of people who can't care for themselves. But I also believe that we have an obligation to enrich our own life, to be the best person that we can be, and to take care of ourselves. So that's kind of what's had my attention lately, and it just feels like the further left the left goes, the further right the right goes. It's like almost like a law of physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So the further out from the middle one side goes, the further out from the middle the other side goes. And I think the further up from the middle one side goes, the further down from the middle the other side goes. And we know that if you get too high on that vertical axis, then you wind up with Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot. But if you wind up too far down on the vertical axis towards liberty, you wind up with total chaos and anarchy. And somewhere in the middle is where we want to be. So I've just been thinking about that a lot. And if it's true that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, what if we all started moving towards the middle instead of the extremes? Would it then also cause the other side to come towards the middle?